Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of My Faith with Homer and Pip. Homer?
People are watching and they say, Homer, simplify it. Don't use all this. Just give them the short one, the best one. Mother Teresa, my secret is a very simple one. I pray. Just stop there. Okay, I will. That's what she said. It was that short, that simple. Tommy?
And I love it when people live out prayers as Mother Teresa did, and I love it too that she had such humility. And humility would describe, admittedly, my biased opinion, the guest we have this week. His name is Tom Niland. Tommy and I am blessed to be friends with him, Homer, as you know, for about a half century or so. We've had a lot of great times together. Tom, thanks for joining us to share your faith. Appreciate you.
Tom and Homer, thank you very much for asking me. I hope I can do a decent job on this. You not embarrass you guys. That's my goal is here.
Homer, you know what to tell him, right?
I know. I don't get that. You just tell your story. You now will have a spiritual resume for everyone to observe the rest of your life, for the rest of eternity. You can't screw it up. It's like asking you to breathe.
I don't know about can't screwing it up, but I can tell my story. Put it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you just want me to go ahead?
Well, my first question is always the same because I'm curious how you want to start. How do you want to start?
I think I think basically for me, starting begins at the beginning. So it begins with my family. And it begins with my mother and my father. So I grew up in a family of 7 children. There's 7 of us. I was the oldest of 7. My mother and father were from Buffalo, New York. My father got married right out of the war. He was a World War II veteran. As a matter of fact, Homer, you might not know this, but my father's family was where the Saving Private Ryan was formed after. So the Niland the Niland family in Buffalo is the inspiration for the movie Saving Private Ryan. So it's kind of an interesting, when all that happened, it was crazy. But anyways, that goes happen. So anyways, I grew up in Syracuse. My mother and father married right after the war. They married in 1946. My father graduated from Canisius College in 46. And in 47, my father graduated in 47, was married in 46, graduated from college and moved to Syracuse, New York, where my father was hired as the first basketball coach and athletic director at Lemoyne College in Syracuse, a Jesuit college. And he was there for 45 years as the athletic director and 27 years as the basketball coach. So that's where it all began. So I was born, as I said, my father graduated in 47. They got married in 46. They moved to Syracuse in 47, and I was born in 47. So I was born in 1947. So to make a long story short, when I think about my religion, I think about my family, and I think about my mom and dad, and I think about growing up. So my parents, the 7 of us, we all went to a parochial league grammar school. So the first formative years of my life, from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade, I was at a parochial league grammar school being taught by the Franciscan nuns. In high school, I went for 4 years to Christian Brothers Academy, another Catholic high school in Syracuse, New York, and I was taught by the Christian Brothers. In college, I went to a Jesuit college, Wheeling Jesuit College, and now I'm taught by the Jesuits. So as you can see, my upbringing there's a lot of Catholicism to it. There's a lot of upbringing that way to it. So that's basically how my years went. So if I go back to where it really all started with my parents, I mean, they taught us the values that were important. They taught us, my mother and father. My father taught us more about everything else by actions. We watched my father, how he behaved and how he acted. He was always working. He'd come and go, but he was home, but he was working all the time. He's working 8-10 hours a week. He's an athletic director and a basketball coach. You're not going to be spending a lot of. So my mother is the one that had the responsibility of bringing it. When I think back upon it, I say, how did this woman bring 7 children up? I'm not saying by herself, but she was with them so much. And she's the one that really instilled these values and stuff in our lives. So it was really interesting. So if I go back, I remember my mother sitting down with me and all my brothers and sisters and teaching us our catechism questions, making sure that we were We were, polite, make sure we had our manners. When we ate at the dinner table, we all had to use the right forks, the right napkins. I mean, if we didn't do that, that would be a major problem. I still screwed up today, but nonetheless, and that's the problem. But my mother made sure all that was being done. And like I said before, my catechism, come home from school, from grammar school, need to know my catechism question, need to know my prayers. Who was teaching me? My mother. Well, I forgot to tell you. My father, very religious, his family, one of his sisters, he had 13 in his family. One of his sisters was a Catholic nun. So they grew up in a family. My mother grew up a couple blocks away from my dad, a Protestant. She was a Protestant religion who wasn't Catholicism. She didn't really practice a lot of her faith, but you know what? She's the one that taught me every catechism question. She's the one that taught me everything about my religion, more than my dad did, because he was always working. His was more by example. My mother was always about make sure I know my prayers, make sure I knew my act of contrition, the Holy Father, the Hail Mary, all these things. My mother is the one that taught us.
If you were
so when you go back, you think about that, it's kind of interesting, but that's how it worked in my family. And all of us, all 7 of us did the same thing. We all went through that.
If you went back, what was, do you think, the most important thing to your mom's faith? Because clearly she had a huge role. What was it, do you think, was at the top of her list? As to...
No, I think it was her family. I think, but what was most important to my father was her family. My mother believed in God and she would go to the, but it was mostly at that time. I look at it this way. My mother was so busy with all these children at such a young age. And she spent all this time to making sure, they didn't have dryers and didn't have all that stuff at that time. There weren't any of these luxuries. But my mother made sure that we all had clean clothes. We all had this, and there were 7 of us pretty close together, And so she spent all her time doing that, but also teaching us that religion that we all had. It was because it was my mother that did it. Now, my father would take us to church, walk us to church every Sunday. We go to church, we walk the 4 or 5 blocks, we sit in the pew. My father looking around, making sure nobody's slouching, nobody's leaning back, or all looking at the altar. We're all concentrated on the priest. That was what my father did. If we didn't do it, then he'd give us a little whack or something, make sure we do it. But the point is, it's how it was in my family. And my father would do that, and my mother would do the other thing. So together it worked. The system they had in place worked. There was never any arguments. There was never any disputes. Even though my mother was Protestant, they must have had an agreement along the way that all the children were going to be educated, baptized in the Catholic faith, and educated in the Catholic faith. So every one of my brothers and sisters, like I said before, Franciscan nuns, Christian brothers. My sisters went to a convent school, my 2 sisters, and we all the rest of us went to a Jesuit college. So anyways, that's how it works.
All right. Now, I don't want to say most important, but it is to me. All this you're given, at some point, you decide what you believe, and it becomes your faith.
Yes.
You remember at what age that was.
Okay. So you're right about that. I was thinking about that before. And so I'm saying to you, certainly not my grammar school years when I'm growing up, I'm doing what my father. Once I look at it this way, when I'm living in their house, I'm obeying their rules. I'm not questioning anything, and I'm not stepping on it. I had another brother that would step on some toes. I didn't step on toes. I was like a goody two-shoes guy. The first one, I did nothing wrong. I say to my brother, who's 1 year behind me, he was good, but because next to me I was perfect, he got all the problems. He had all the problems because he looked like my father would say after a basketball game, okay, we played basketball on the basketball team. I want you home at 10 o'clock after the game, I'd come home at 9 o'clock because I didn't have any dates. I didn't have anything. My brother come home at 10. My brother would get yelled at. Where have you been? Even though my father said 10 o'clock, but I'd been home for an hour, so it was those kinds of things. But nonetheless, that's what it was. But so I'm saying to you, when did I think about this, about my own religion? So I'm saying it was in college. I'm saying I'm in college now, and I'm probably my first 2 years in college. I'm saying, even though I'm a Jesuit college, I wasn't going to church every day, every Sunday. And I was with the Jesuits, and they were doing some things, but I just, college, you're out on your own for the first time. You got to figure it out. So finally, by my junior year, I said, wait a minute, this isn't right. I can't do this. I just don't feel comfortable. I got to go back to church. I got to go back doing these things because these things I was brought up to do, and these things are important to do. So I said, I got to do it. So one of the things that I did that made me do this, I went to the priest, and I knew all these priests anyways. They were teachers, they were this, they were that, they were all around. But I went to one of the priests who would say the mass, and I said, look, I want to do the readings. I want to come down and do the readings at the mass. Do you mind if I do it? No, he says, we're looking for guys like you. Thank you so much. So I started doing the readings at mass on Sundays and some of the other masses. So it became, that's how I really started.
Wait a minute. Why did you decide you had to do the readings? You're not going to mass at all. Now I'm going to mass. Not only am I going to mass, why?
In my mind, I did it because I'm saying this is another reason that would, look at, if I made the commitment to do this, and I should do this, I should have done it just because I want to do it. But this way, I mean, I'm playing on the basketball team. I'm doing all these things. I got all these things I could do. But I said, I can't do this. I've got to get involved. I got to get back to the church. So I said, this is the one way I think that would work for me. And it did work for me. I did all this, you know what I mean? And it was terrific the way it all worked out, you know, and then that's what I did. So I started going to church again.
So you started to go to the church again. Now you're reading. This isn't forever. How did it grow from there? Or have you been going to church and reading every mass since then? What happened next?
So here's what happens after that. After that, I go, Vietnam War's on. This is 1969. So I joined the Marines. Now I'm in the Marine Corps. And I'm training, and I'm going to mass when I'm training. I'm involved because I look at my life is different then. There's a war. I'm going to be involved in this. I got to get my life organized. I got to get my life straight. I got to do this right. So that's what I did. I started going to church and being involved in the same type of things. I'm at all these bases. I'm in North Carolina. They had a beautiful church down there. I got a lot of singing. A lot of nice looking girls were there. And I'm doing singing masses and doing this. And I went to Oklahoma. They had another place out there. So I'm at all these different places, but I'm always finding a church. I always found one to go to that I liked and I could relate to and I could do all those things with, you know. So that's how it happened. And even when I go to Vietnam, I go to Vietnam now, and this is 1970. And I'm on this hill by myself, Hill 55, just south of Da Nang. And I'm living with the Arvins. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's no priest coming out to this hill. There's none of that stuff, you know. And so it was just me and myself. And basically, you know, I'd go to bed every night in my cot, and I'd sit there and I'd pray.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I just prayed because, you know, I'm in that environment. Things are happening. Things are this or that. I said, I'm just asking God to watch over me. And he did. So I can look at, I'll give you a couple of examples. I was in a helicopter one day. We're flying over this village or this rice field. So we're trying to pick up a couple guys. We got radio contact. Now they pop a smoke grenade. We hover over to where they are. We're probably 30 or 40 feet from them, up in the air above them. So we're coming down the drops, get to them. There's a VC laying in the weeds. He opens up on the helicopter. This is a small helicopter. It's a Huey. 6 people in the helicopter, 3 get wounded. The guy sitting back to back with me, I'm looking to the left. He's looking to the right. We're back. He's looking straight, but we're back to back looking out. The round comes right up between our seats, goes into his side. I mean, it missed me by centimeters. And he gets wounded. He's not killed. He just gets wounded. I get back after all that's over. I'm thinking to myself, why me? Why didn't I get hit? Why was it this little bit? And why did this guy get hit and I didn't get hit? There's another incident. I'm talking to a bunch of guys. I normally sleep in my bunk, in my cot on the hill. That particular night, I'm talking to another guy that went away, and he comes, and it's 12 o'clock. So instead of going to bed at 9 or 10, I'm up talking to this guy. So at 12 o'clock, I start walking down this path to where my hooch was, and rockets come in all over the place. blow everything, rockets, rockets, rockets. I come in, I dive into this bunker, I'm in there. After that, it's over. I go to my hooch. My bed's gone. Everything's blown up. I should have been there. I should have been in my bed, but I wasn't. Now, I look back at those things and say, why? Why did that happen? And I tend to believe somebody is watching over me. Somebody said, it's not your time. And that's the only expression I could have. You can call it luck. You can call it this way. You can call it that. I simply say, somebody said, it's not your time. So consequently, I was able to live through all that stuff, and made it through.
I mean, you believe the prayers made a difference.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I don't think there's any question about it. I believe it. I believe that every day. So I kind of made a agreement or so, a pact, and I said, if you get me out of here, I'll do whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to try to live my life a little better and try to be a better person. I'm sure a lot of guys that did it, not just me. I'm not promoting myself to be this unbelievable. I'm just saying those are the conversations people would have with themselves when in those environments. I know other guys that did the same thing. And so then you just try to exist, try to get through all this stuff, and luckily I was able to do it and come back and live a normal life, so.
It's over 60 years ago and it's hard for you to talk about.
This particular moment, this particular time, yes. I can talk about it around other people, but when I start talking is one thing, but getting yourself actually back at, like trying to put yourself back there, that's when the problem comes. Like right now, talking to you, I'm trying to put myself right back in that position where I was 50, 60 years ago. And once I do that, I get a little bit emotional because I just think about it, Normally I'm not thinking about that much, but I just happen to do it now.
So you come back.
Yeah.
What did you do as part of that spiritual agreement, or where did it go from there? Because you can say it.
So here's what happens. Here's what happens.
Are two different things.
Okay, so here's what happens. I come back. I'm lost a little bit, a lost soul, and stuff like that. Did you ever? There's a song out by England, Dan, and John Ford Coley. It's called "Soldier in the Rain." If you ever get a chance to listen to that song, England, Dan, and John Ford Coley, "Soldier in the Rain," it's about a serviceman that went to Vietnam, and he's coming back home. And when he comes back home, his life has changed. All his friends, there's no friends around. And he's standing there to see his friends, but nobody. That's all he thought about when he was in overseas, about his friends, of coming home and being together. And now he's standing a soldier in the rain, and there's no friends around because they've all moved on. It's kind of like the same way that happened to me. I came back from my life. I was in the Marine Corps for 3 years. I went away again, by the time I came back, it's 3 or 4 years been away. So all the friends that I had, they were different now. They left away, and I'm there sitting by myself. I'm kind of by myself. And it's kind of true, the story, now that I listen to the song, but it's kind of true. You're sitting there, soldier in the rain. So anyways, I'm getting off track. So now I got to come back. I got to figure out something, what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? And I decided at that time to form a janitorial business. Why did I form a janitorial business? I don't know. I needed something to do. I had a college education. I did all this stuff. I was, originally I had ideas of being a lawyer. That I didn't do that. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started a janitorial business, just me, in 1974. Me. That's it. Washing a couple windows, doing a couple floors, doing this. I sold it. 30 years later, 350 people working for me. And then after that, I'm married during almost all this time. I'm married. My wife and I, we raised 4 kids, 4 children. They all go to Catholic colleges and stuff like that. We try to bring them up the same way. And where do we end up? Where do my wife and I end up now? What do we end up doing? We're working for the Catholic Church. We clean some of their offices. My wife works in one of the offices. It's not even a job. It's more of just being around the Catholic Church, being around the priests, being around the people. It's such a great environment to be in. It's part-time, but we do it every day. It's part of who we are. So that's it.
No, it's not. People don't do what you do.
I know they don't do what we do, but that's what we do.
Why? No, so
why? Because I can't explain it why. But things, look at, I had that business. I had all these people working for me. I wasn't a great businessman. You know why? Because I gave away too much stuff. Because when I'm working with doing my stuff, I'm working, all these people are working for me. It's mostly minimum wage jobs. These people have nothing. And you know, I'm trying to have them working. So I'm giving this, doing this. So it's just the way I was brought up, just the way I am. And that's the way things went, you know, back then, you know. So now I sold all that business. I retired, but my wife and I said, we can't retire. We can't just look at ourselves. So, and also the church called us back. I sold the account. They said, no, we can't do it. We got to, you have you guys. So we went back and said, okay, we'll just do it for you. So we only do, like, when you think 350 people, we only, right now we have 5 people. That's all we have. 5 people. And we manage those 5 people and work with those 5 people and do the stuff we do. And we're both in our 70s, but we love to do it. We love to be around the church. We love to be around the priests. We love the people. And that's why we do it. Are we getting paid something? Yes, but it's not the issue.
But your entire life, you've made the church a very, very important thing. Why?
Why? I mean, are you kidding me? Why? There's nothing better. I mean, here's the promise of God, the promise of redemption, the promise of the resurrection. All that stuff is there. It's right there in front of you. All you got to do is just read into it and follow it. I mean, it's right there. I mean, every day you see it, every single day. My wife I go to church every day now. I changed a little bit. I try to get to church more and more and more and more. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm older. I don't know. I'm just saying to you, but that's the way it is. So I can't.
But you understand, you've had all these people you've interacted with in the Army, or you go back in your business. Not everybody has done it like you have.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I did it the way I did it because that's what felt comfortable to me. That's the way I made up, and that's the way I felt comfortable. And I met a girl that feels the same way. So how much better can it get?
Well, none, but I don't think it's random that you picked a girl that was that way.
Well, that's what I did. You got to give me some credit for something, don't you?
No, I give you credit
I saw
for
it in
everything.
her. That I saw her, and I saw that in her. I said, "Yeah, this girl's going to work. She's going to be in my." Well, now look, I can't go ahead and tell you that's always the case because you know how that is. I'm not.
I have other questions, but Tommy's known you for 50 years, so I want to defer to him because I'm curious what he asks.
Homer, I want you to continue with this because I'm just sitting here beaming, full of love for my friend and watching him walk through his incredible faith journey. And so you continue. I may throw something in a little bit later, but in this case, I just want to listen. Keep going, buddy.
All right. Well, now I ask this. You're meeting someone who has a faith that's growing. They're kind of curious. They look at you and go, I kind of want to be like that or whatever. You have 60 seconds to tell them the most important part of your faith. What's the strongest? What's at the top of the food chain? What are you going to say to them?
My thing is, we're placed on this earth to live on this earth. And if you look around, just can't be by chance. It just can't happen like chance. It's got to be a much higher being, a much more higher being than all of us that created all this. And created all this for us to live in, for us to live our lives. And therefore, I believe we're here to put on earth to love God, to cherish God, to follow God's word, his commandments, the Beatitudes, all those things that are put out there before us. But you cannot look at all this and say, this just happened by chance. It didn't happen by chance. It didn't happen by chance. It's all here for a reason. We're all here to go through this for a reason, that we can go through our life, live our life, love God, and be with him to all eternity at the end. That's the goal. That's the gift. The gift is to finish. Go for him and have eternity at the end and love God. And along the way, you have your children and you bring it all together. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense to you. It makes sense to me.
That's all that matters. At what age did you feel just what you said that strongly? When, at what age because
look, it just didn't happen. It's a stepping stone. It's a learning curve. It's little by little by little by little by little you get there. You know, I'm not saying I'm at the end. I'm still learning. I'm not there. I'm not there. It's going to take me longer to get there, but I'm on the right path. Look at, there's going to be, it's a path. That doesn't mean it's always straight up. It means it goes up and down, but you're always generally moving in the right direction. Okay. But you're going to have bumps along the way. We all do. We all got to bounce back from those bumps and move up. We all got to turn to our Savior, turn to God and say, look, I need some help. Give me some help. That's it.
Clearly your parents were a huge part of it.
Oh.
But is there anyone else in your life that you met that you said, wow, or that had any influence in developing what you just told us?
Pippins.
Oh, come on.
I've never met a guy like Pippins in my whole life. Never, 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 never. And if you ask my friends and people that have known him from before, we all say the same thing. Tom Pippins is a special man. And they're just not other guys like him around. And even though I haven't seen Tom in a lot of years, he's gone off and done his own thing, and I went and did my thing. In my mind, it's like I was there like yesterday. It's like we never left, we never separated. It's like we was there yesterday. Tom Pippins, that's the guy. That's the guy. And if you ask people around this city who knew Tom Pippins back then, they'll all say the same thing. I'm not the only guy. I'm not the Lone Ranger here. This is the truth. I'm just telling you.
All right. The closest in your life that you felt to God, any particular time, any particular moment where you felt the closest to God?
I would say those times in Vietnam and when I got married. Those are the times. Oh, I would say there's another time. I'm going to say another time. Recently, I had a sister. She was dying. She lived in Cape Cod. So this is only a couple years ago, a year ago. So I visit my sister, and she's dying. She's not going to make it. And she has no children. It's her and her husband. That's it. And they got married late. They couldn't have any children. Sister was a nurse. Husband's a fire chief. So I visit my sister. She's in bed. She says to me, Tommy, don't let me die alone. I go, I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say. I kind of said something, and she won't die alone. I turned and I walked away. I'm thinking to myself, what a horrible thing to say. Nothing. I said nothing. You won't die alone. That's not the greatest. That's not something she's looking for, whatever. I even told this story at church because they give a little sermon for my sister at church after the funeral. So anyways, that's what happens. So now she says, don't let me die alone. I said, Nance, you're not going to die alone. So I leave and I go home. And now 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm driving my children to New Jersey. And I got to drop my kids off there because my kids move in New Jersey. I'm dropping my grandkids off. Then we're going to stay with my daughters for a couple of days, and then we're coming home. So I get to New Jersey, and I get a call from one of my brothers. He's with my sister in Cape Cod. He says, Tom, Nance isn't doing well. Nance isn't doing well. How bad? Yeah, she's not bad. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Because I told her you're not going to die alone. Get in my car. I drive the 5 hours to Cape Cod. I get there around 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I walk into the room. She's completely unconscious. The nurse says to her, Nancy, Tommy just walked in the room. She opens her eyes, looks at me, smiles, and back down to the bed. So I'm with her, holding her hands. An hour later, she died. So those are things that happen. You know, why did it happen? I think my sister she wanted me to be there. And, and I was there, and God let me be there. Let my sister live another hour or whatever it was so I could be there with her. Maybe he felt that bad. My sister believed in that too. So anyways, that's the story.
My thought now is people that listen and watch this will say, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like him. What would you tell them if they said that?
I said, be yourself. You can't be like me. There's not many people that want to be like me. You got to say, be yourself. You can be the best. Just be the best that you can be. That's the only thing I've been saying. Be the best that you can be. Everybody's, I think that's all our goals. Be the best that we can be.
Yeah.
I try to do that.
I want a faith like that.
I think we all do. But you can have it. You can have it. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. I don't know. Maybe, whatever.
I always ask this, and it doesn't fit, but I'm asking it. At what point in your life, when you look back, do you feel that you were the furthest from God? If there was a point.
I'd probably say my first couple years in college. Back then. Different, first time away from home. First time living away from home, away from your parents. You have to find your own, you have to figure out how you're going to live your own life the way you want to live it. And when you go to college, you meet all these new people, all these new friends, and you're trying to figure things out. I'm on the basketball team, but that helped me because those guys were good guys. And all the other kids were good people. I had to find my niche and find my way and find what's going. But I wasn't going to church. I got away from it, like I told you. And then finally, about my junior year, I said, okay, this is ridiculous. I got to change things here. I can't do this anymore. This is not good for me. And I started going back to church. Like I told you, I went and asked the priest if I could do the readings. And I started to not just go to church on Sundays. I was doing other days. I doing this and doing that. Oh, I forgot to tell you too. When I was a grammar school boy, I wasn't an altar boy like everybody else. Me, my brother, and a lot of friends did all the funerals, all the weddings, did everything in the church back then. Great times, great days, all those things. And we were around great priests, great diocesan priests. There was about 4 or 5 or 6 during the time I was an altar boy. I would say there was about 6, maybe 4 assistant pastors that I was associated with. And these guys were like the best. They were the best of the best. And I admired them. I respected them. I imitated them. It was unbelievable. They were very important in my life because they also came to the school and visited the school because the grammar school was right next to the church. I tell you this, I'm going to tell you this story. I haven't told this to anybody in my life. You're the first one. I'm in grammar school, 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th grade. Like I'm an altar boy around that time. I'm thinking about maybe I could be a priest. I go down in my basement, I set up an altar, and I start saying masses. I'm 10 years old, 9, 10 years old. I'm saying masses on my own in the altar. Nobody even knows about this. I'm telling you, you're the first one to know about it. That's what I did. Crazy. But I didn't become sometimes I think maybe I should have, but I just didn't do it. I just didn't do it.
Why do you say those priests were great? I mean, you're
okay. So you look at it this way: you're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. These are men. Okay, they were young men, but they were men, and they were priests. And I'm being brought up in this religion and this thing and this whole, and therefore they were different than they were priests. They were on a higher level than everybody else. Okay, and therefore I was an altar boy. And I had to make sure I got all this right, and I did all the prayers right, and I did everything right, and all this other stuff. But these guys were so good to me, so good. I'll tell you another quick story. I'm an altar boy. I'm one of the altar boys. There's only a couple altar boys that did the weddings on the wedding crew and the funeral crew. So our assistant pastor says, okay, all the money that you get from the weddings and the money you get from the funerals, guess what? I'm going to keep those envelopes. And at the end of the year, I'm going to have a big picnic for all the altar boys. So I said, okay, Father, it seems to work. But I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I'm the altar boy doing all the work, me and a couple other guys, but everybody's joining in this party, So anyways, the year goes. Now it's time for the altar boy picnic. So the altar boy picnic goes in the summer at Skinny Atlas Lake. Tom knows it's a big lake here in Syracuse. So the priest says, okay, we're going to have the altar boy picnic. It's on the 4th of August, whatever day it was. And I'm looking at the date, and then I'm looking at my other date. I said, wait a minute, it's a Saturday, August 4th. I got a Babe Ruth League baseball game that day. I got a problem. So I go to my father and I say, Dad, I got a problem. I got a conflict. What do you mean? Well, I got the altar boy picnic and I got a Babe Ruth League baseball game. I can't, I got to go to the, he says, you don't have a problem. I said, what do you mean? You're going to the baseball game. I said, wait a minute. How does that work? If you know my father, Tom knows my dad. My father he was a tough guy. He said, you're going to the baseball game. I said, okay, but so I ended up going to the baseball. I said, wait a minute. I'm the one that did all these things. But that's what it was. Just the way it worked in my house. So anyways.
All right, Tommy. Tommy Pippin.
I only have one question. We'll see where we go with it. And then I want to make a few comments to you, dear friend. Welcome home, first of all. You were a hero as your dad was, your entire family, going back to that Save Private Ryan. You should research it, the Niland family, I think, right, and Save Private Ryan. You came back, you were that soldier in the rain, you were alone. How did your faith factor into that? And did God bring someone into your life to help you with the healing?
I think when I came back, my faith just brought me back. I said, look, I don't know anybody anymore. I don't know any people. I don't know any. I mean, I was kind of lonely. I had to get out on my own because I left my house. I left and I got an apartment by myself. And then I got some jobs. Once I got the jobs, it really kind of changed. Okay. And then I started working. So essentially what happened, once I got back into the workplace and I got doing something and I had to start to do things again and accomplish things again and be active and be working, then it was all fine after that. But for that beginning, that soldier in the rain time, yeah, it's amazing to me because when I listen to that song, I haven't heard that song forever and ever and ever. I only started listening to it like maybe 5 years ago. I heard it for the first time. And I'm listening to it. I go, do you believe this song? And I give it to other friends of mine that were in the same boat. I said, do you believe this song? And they all say the same thing. So it was just like that. I can't remember. What was your question? What was the other part of the question?
Well, you felt so isolated, so alone, but you're answering in the sense that you just ran to your faith, which is what I think all of us need to hear in tough times. And he helped you find your way, and I would like to think help with the healing because you saw so much.
I mean, I'm sure that's what happened. It's you always. I mean, I always turn to my faith when things get tough. I always turn to my faith and say, "Hey, look, I have a conversation with Jesus, a conversation with God, and say, look, please help me through this. This is not easy for me. Can you please help me and show me the way, show me the light, whatever it is." And look, it's just a conversation. It's just a thought. It's in your mind. It's in who you are. And you're having these conversations in your head. And that's how it works for me. That's kind of what I do. But anyways.
Homer, any other comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I want to know the rest of your family. Do they have a faith like yours? I would assume your parents would think that, yes, everything we did worked. That's why we did it.
Well, my parents for sure, because my brothers and my sisters, there's 7 of us. My sister, just like I say, my one sister passed away. But all the rest of us, we all go to church. We all have our, I don't know about all their families. My family, my children, they go to church. Okay. They're part of who they are, part of the religion, part of the Catholic, their stuff. So we try to instill in them those values. And luckily and fortunately enough, they've all decided to practice their religion. So it's been good for us, but that's the way it is.
That's not necessarily the way it is for everyone. Tommy, you do the question because you always like to finish with, for people that are struggling, what would you tell them? So
yeah, and I think that's what I was getting at a little bit, Tommy. You run to your faith, but for some people, man, whether it's shame, pain, sufferings, self-suffering or otherwise. But you're saying, forget about that. It's not about you. It's not about an individual. It's about what God has done, right? I mean, you were so passionate in talking about the blood of Jesus on the cross, my Savior, for goodness sake. But it isn't always easy. You ran. You're always been so determined. You ran to and not from. But what about those listening to you now?
I say to everybody, your faith is out there. It's there. You just have to let it come. You just have to let it in. You have to let it. I mean, you don't block it off. Just accept it and let it happen. And then practice it, then get involved in it. But it's there. You have to let it. It's all around you. It's all around you. You just have to be willing to accept it, be willing to adopt it, be willing to start practicing it, start to get involved. I mean, it's easy to do. It's not hard. What does it take? It doesn't take it. Sitting down at night,
Tommy,
sitting down and just having a conversation. That's it.
Yeah. Tommy, you know me, I always want a t-shirt. And I think the t-shirt for Tommy is go to church. He has a little extra to that. I went to church and my kids go to church, and you want to have that faith, go to church.
Exactly.
Is that a fair t-shirt? Or
it's
maybe
there in front of you. It's not hiding. You don't have to play hide and seek with it. It's right there for you. Go to it, reach for it, run to it. That's what it is. That's what I say. Anyways.
Tommy, I know that Coach, your dad, and your beautiful mom, your sister, they are smiling down. They're living on through you and proud as can be. And in closing, from my perspective, I will treasure your words, whether I live for one day or 20 years. But I would like to be like you, truth be known. I would like to have that kind of a faith. And I think that's what I was so attracted to 50 years ago when we met and had a lot of fun times and crazy times. And it was always about your faith lived out and lived out in humility. And I'm just so grateful that the good Lord connected us today. We had someone fall through for a guest, tried one or two. I said, wait a minute, I've been talking about getting with Tommy Niland. So that's God's connection. And the final thing I will say is Homer always says it. And he said it earlier, it's your spiritual resume. You and I talked about that on the phone. But I pray that as you look at this, and then your family will see it, of course, and loved ones, friends, whoever you choose, just Google My Faith with Homer and Pip. I pray that it will continue to offer you healing as you make your way to and through the cross of Christ, because we're all in the same boat. I love you, friend, and I can't thank you enough for this opportunity.
Well, Tommy, thank you. Our friendship, long time ago, it's never ended. It's always there. It's always we are. You know, I couldn't believe it when was the middle of COVID. I flipping through the channels. Because I can't go to mass. There weren't masses back then. I'm flipping through the channels and I'm sitting there watching my chair, and I look up there and who's doing the readings? Pippins. I go, oh my God. Look, I say to Beth, look who's doing the readings. It's Pippins. I said, this is unbelievable.
Heart of the Nation Mass. You know who else does the readings? Right now he's below you in the screen. And I had some video issues there. I apologize. Homer as well, buddy. So we're double trouble out there lecturing. And we only follow in your footsteps in that regard.
Hey, look, this has been a blessing. This has been great. Thank you for doing this. I'm glad I hope I help you a little bit. I hope look at it is what it is, but I just thank you. Thank you so much. And nice meeting you, Homer. Nice talking to you.
T-shirt. It is what it is, but that doesn't.
It was perfect, buddy. You take good care. God bless you and Beth, your entire family, kids, grandkids, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks. I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, everybody. You bet. On My Faith with Homer and Pip. For the Homer, our producer, Brent Young, we can't do it without him. I'm Tommy Pippins. We hope and pray that my good friend, my dear friend and brother, Tommy Niland Share, has helped you on your way once again to and through the cross of Jesus Christ. Because as Tommy has indicated in his share, he is always with us. We may leave him, but he is always with us. See you next time. God bless you.